Hey, good morning, everybody. Doing something a little different here today. Playing around a little bit. I'll tell you what, hold on. Fix something here. Okay, so that's part of this show, the dumb shit that I do. That's why it's called managed chaos, because it's constantly something going on. I'm not sitting here with crazy production values and big staff behind me. Really, just sitting here, kind of doing things for me, enjoying what I do, having a good time. So I want to start. I'm going to start right away with the fact that I turned 40 in a couple weeks, and it came to my attention yesterday, which is something I thought about. Was I do turn 40 on April 7th, and I was attending the birthday party for my best friend's wife yesterday, and sitting there looking around at everybody and realize at 40 years old, I think I've done pretty fucking good. Like I've done a pretty good job of keeping myself in shape. You see a lot of these memes that are on Facebook and Instagram. It talks about 70s and 80s babies out there looking better. And I gotta say, last night I was around an individual who was 21. He had just turned 21 a couple weeks ago. And first off, I'm sitting there looking at him and thinking, God damn, my my oldest son is literally just 2 years younger than you. Um, Number two, I'm looking at you and you look like you're older than me. He just looks rough and worn down. He just looked bad. Like you just see it looked like the person had not taken care of himself very well. Um, and so I started thinking about this and I just can't believe, and I'm looking around at all these people and I'm realizing, God damn, people just don't take very good care of themselves. And I mean, I look at myself, I've got wrinkles and gray hair and shit like that. But when it comes to a lot of these other things, I don't look at myself and feel like I look as old as some of these people who are in their 20s. Um, so it's kind of weird. I joke around and I say that I often say that the reason I am the way I am is because my mom probably did a lot of drugs when she was pregnant with me. I She doesn't make her very happy when I say that, and I do mean it as a tongue in cheek joke, but I swear that there's just got to be something different about what our parents did in the late 70s and early 80s versus the way parents are today. Um, and it's just it is. I guess it's different. I mean, I don't think I raised my kids any differently than the way my parents did with me. However, I can say that look, I mean, I've got kids from different moms, so they certainly raise the the kids differently. So it's a little weird there, but um, I just had that thought, and I couldn't get over. I couldn't get over looking at this 21-year-old individual, and he looked older than me. He looked older than me. That's all I could say. And like I said, I lived a good life. I lived a good life coming up, but at the same time, it was hard. It was rough. I lived. My parents bought a ranch in 1992. Grew up there. Was feeding cows. Was working in the yard. Was mowing, weed eating, picking up. I mean, just any amount of yard work you could imagine. Cutting trees down. Digging holes for posts and learning just general skills and trades, I guess. But even as an athlete, but I guess that maybe that was the difference too, is I was involved in sports, which kind of instilled a different type of mentality and general health habits and things like that. And I guess that's kind of where we're missing today with a lot of people is better health habits, which is kind of an issue I have with what we've gone through over the past couple years is the fact that it's not been pushed more to be healthy. That there's not been a bigger effort made to educate people about health, about getting out there. Instead of subsidizing people to McDonald's giving away or people giving away ice cream or fast food so that you go get certain medical um, things done. Why not subsidize someone's gym membership instead of someone being able to use their EBT card to go out, their food stamp card to go out and get, say, a ribeye steak or something like that. Why not make it available for them to go get a gym membership? Um, things like that, instead of us spending a tremendous amount of money as a country on things like and again, it's not all programs are bad and they're not valuable, but we spend a tremendous amount of money on things like, say, Planned Parenthood. Well, why not incorporate into that education about eating healthy and exercising and taking care of yourselves? Why don't we have, instead of sending $30 billion over to the Ukraine, why aren't we putting people into gyms and subsidizing healthier lifestyles? Why is it that if I go to the grocery store and I want to buy a bag of chips, it's $1.99 for this massive bag of chips, this family sized bag of chips. But if I want to go buy some romaine lettuce, it's $7. If I want to go buy some spinach, it's $8. Why is it for us to eat healthier, we have to spend more? And the odd part is that there, as far as the production of the healthier food, it doesn't cost more. It actually costs less to produce healthier food, but it's out there that we have to eat healthier. And generally speaking, people that do eat healthier have a higher income. People that care about what they put in their bodies. And I'm not saying across the board everybody, but on a more regular basis, people that do show more concern about what they put in their bodies generally have a higher income. So they charge more for the healthier food versus the shit food that's out there, like McDonald's, like Jack in the Box. And I'm guilty of it. I eat the stuff. I eat the shit food, and I do. But I also take care of myself. I go to the gym. I do eat well generally. I take in a lot of clean carbs, a lot of protein, things like that. And so, I mean, balance. That's the number one reason I work out, is so I can eat whatever the fuck I want to eat. So, um, something that came up today that I saw, I didn't even realize, and this is why really no one gives a fuck about the Oscars anymore. Is it's tonight. I had no fucking clue. I remember being a kid and with my parents, we would sit down and watch the Oscars, and that was a thing. You want to get on and you want to watch the TV, and it was a show, not about the other bullshit that's going on. It wasn't necessarily about like the music acts that were going to be coming on. It was more along the lines of, these were amazing movies that were out there that everybody was watching, and you wanted to see who won, and you were invested in who the actor of the year and actress of the year were. Now no one gives a fuck. No one gives no one could really fucking care less about this shit. And half the time, and I think a lot of it went to so far because the Academy started nominating movies people hadn't fucking heard of for years. For years, they were nominating movies on ad nauseum that no one had fucking heard of. No one had heard about all this other shit. And I mean, you hear about these amazingly talented people in Hollywood, like Steven Spielberg, like Guillermo del Toro, and people like Bradley Cooper, great actors. And not a big fan of his right now, but oh, I just drew a fucking blank. Not the guy who was in fucking Castaway. Anyway, shows you how much I fucking care about him. Tom Hanks. Yeah, he was in Castaway, he was in Big and Saving Private Ryan, and of course I know about him, but there's a lot of, I don't know what's out there. I don't know if any of it's true. There was an accusation with the whole Pizzagate, the thing in Hollywood where people, there's sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, and all of a sudden at the very beginning of the pandemic, you have Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks is overseas, and he's looks like what he's wearing is an ankle monitor, apparently being wrapped up in the child sex trafficking scandals, part of the stuff with Jeffrey Epstein, people getting involved in all of that, trying to get caught up. Uh, that's a whole fucking animal. That's a whole can of worms to get into. The Jeffrey Epstein stuff, the island, why people were going over there, what was the intention? Were they trying to gain leverage on people? Were they trying to gain influence? Were they trying to make countries and heads of state do certain things by getting them caught up in scandalous photos and videos and things like that? And because apparently that's what's reported that's out there. And so apparently Tom Hanks is reported to be involved in some of that. But back to the Oscars, like I said, no one fucking cares about the Oscars anymore. No one gives a shit. It's turned into this obscure fucking event about literally it's about the Hollywood elite celebrating themselves. They're literally putting on a show to celebrate themselves. They're putting on a show to tell everybody else in the world how fucking great they are, how amazing they are. Celebrate us, make us feel better about ourselves. We're already, looked upon by the majority of the world as this, greater than godlike individual. And we want you to celebrate us more by giving us awards. And then we want to get on the stage and bloviate about how fucking amazing we are and how difficult this was. And I guess that's kind of the problem I had with The Rock after he came out in support of Joe Biden. The biggest problem I had with The Rock was the story behind The Rock is the fact he formed a production company called $7 Production. And the reason it's called $7 is because when he was he was booted out of the CFL, when he left football, he was homeless essentially. He was living out of his car and he had $7 in his pocket. And that's when he decided to go into wrestling and get involved with all of that. And it became a massive global worldwide phenomenon that we know today as The Rock. And he is in movies. He is one of the wealthiest individuals in Hollywood. I think his annual right now, with everything that he's involved with between Under Armour and his his movies and production company and everything else, and his acting, of course, he makes something like between 60 and $80 million a year. I saw something the other day where it showed he was getting paid for every post. He was the highest paid individual for every post he made on Instagram. Sponsored post was something like $2.5 million is what he got. What he would get paid if he was talking about a product. So he's lived for the past 20 years now. He has lived this complete blessed life. And when he came out after the pandemic, he started talking about how, or during the pandemic, that the reason he's going to support Joe Biden is because Joe Biden was for the people, and that Donald Trump apparently had no plan for COVID. Well, I think what we can see is that it's actually gotten worse under Biden. There's 10 times the amount of information known today under Biden than there was under Trump, and Biden has done far less for the resolution of all this other than the fact that we just said, hey, now when the war in Ukraine is going to kick off, the pandemic no longer matters. COVID apparently no longer matters whatsoever because the Ukraine situation is happening. Real fucking strange. Now it's no longer important. Now the news is no longer reporting it. Because so anyway, The Rock lived. He talks about the reason he has $7 Productions because he was broke. He had to work and had to grind to develop something to become who he is today. He worked really fucking hard. And then he comes out and talks about how he had COVID and that although it was the hardest thing he had ever had to do. The video he put out said that it was the hardest thing he'd ever had to deal with in his life. A week prior, he was literally talking about having to yank, and this is not a fucking joke. A week prior to posting the video of him talking about how COVID was the toughest thing he had ever had to do in his life, he made a post about how the power apparently had gone out to his mansion in LA. So he had to use his Ford Raptor which is already an $80,000 vehicle, and he's living in a $20 million complex, and he had to use his Ford Raptor to yank down the fence to his compound. When, I mean, I've lived on properties where they had electric fences, and there's a pin. There's just a pin. You don't have to fucking yank the fence down. There's a pin you can pull out of the motor, out of the arm. And so you got to figure, and so I'm looking at him like, he's got a picture of the fucking fence on the ground that he yanked down with his truck. Knowing that you could have just pulled the pin out tells me he's a fucking idiot. If he actually yanked the fence down and then posted about it, I think maybe it was just for show. I think maybe some of it was just for production of putting a story out there and something, fantasized or whatever. People, whatever it. But he was talking about how difficult his experience was, considering his entire story was an atrocity, and it made me lose all respect for The Rock. I refuse to watch anything he's involved with. I don't watch any movies he's done. I won't rewatch any past movies. It's just disgusting to me, and it bothers me. So anyway, we'll jump on over to Ketanji Brown Jackson. It's a difficult name for me to say. No disrespect intended there whatsoever. Ketanji Brown Jackson, widely known as Ketanji Jackson, Judge Ketanji Jackson. I keep wanting to put an N before the T, but Judge Ketanji Jackson is nominee for SCOTUS, Supreme Court Justice of the United States of America. She is a nominee. And she's going to get confirmed. There's going to be no question. It would be impossible for her not to get confirmed. There's not going to be a single Democrat that's going to vote against her. And there's going to be a large percentage of Republicans that will vote for her. The optics of voting against her is going to be very bad. So I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that we will see any too many votes against her. The optics are going to look very bad. It's not going to look very good if you have, she is, and I will go into this. She is actually the first Black female Supreme Court nominee. And I will actually go into this. There's been a lot of contention about this. There's a lot of information out there. And so I am going to go into this. She actually is the first Black female Supreme Court nominee for the United States Supreme Court. So I'm going to go into this, and I'm actually going to read an article it's an opinion article off of the Washington Post. Washington Post is not known to be at this point very conservative. They're very liberal. So I'm going to read this article to you guys. And kind of break it down as we go through. So it talks about President Biden wants credit for nominating the first Black woman to the Supreme Court, but here is a shameful irony. As a senator, Biden warned President George W. Bush that if he nominated the first Black woman to serve on the Supreme Court, he would filibuster and kill her nomination. Now, that's public record. That is public record that as a senator, Joe Biden was involved with the overseeing and approval and confirmation of Supreme Court nominees. So while George W. Bush was in office, he was considering Judge Janice Roberts to serve on the Supreme Court. So I'll continue to read the article. Gives more context. It says the story begins in 2003 when Bush nominated Judge Janice Rogers Brown to serve on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. The D.C. Circuit is considered the country's second most important court that has produced more Supreme Court justices than any other federal court. I believe the number one, the U.S. Court of Appeals, the top one is the New York, Manhattan District Court of Appeals. I believe that's would be what's considered the first one, because typically that deals with very large financial crimes. Lots of businesses have their domicile in New York, things like that. That's why I believe DC is number two, New York, Manhattan being number one. Um, Brown was immediately hailed as a potential Supreme Court nominee. She was highly qualified, having served for 7 years as an Associate Justice of the California Supreme Court, the first Black woman to do so. She was the daughter and granddaughter of sharecroppers and grew up in the rural Alabama during the dark days of segregation, when her family refused to enter restaurants or theaters with separate entrances for Black customers. She rose from poverty and put herself through college and UCLA Law School as a working single mother. She was a self-made African-American legal star, but she was an outspoken conservative, so Biden was set out to destroy her. Again, this is the Washington Post. I'm just reading an article from the Washington Post here. Biden and his fellow Democrats, remember this is 2003. Biden was not vice president of the United States yet. He did not become vice president until 2008, when Barack Obama was elected president in 2008. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were president and vice president from 2000 to 2008. Okay. Biden and his fellow Democrats filibustered her nomination along with several other Bush Circuit Court nominees, all of whom had majority support in the Senate. So, Biden, you have a Black female Supreme Court nominee for the District Court of Appeals. This is not the Supreme Court. This is the District Court, the DC Court of Appeals, Circuit Court. Okay, so this is not yet the Supreme Court. All right. Novak called it a first full-scale effort in American history to prevent a president from picking the federal judges he wants. Democrats argued that he was out of his legal mainstream, but the Republicans responded that she had written more majority opinions than any other justice in the California Supreme Court, and she was reelected with 76% of the vote, the highest percentage of all justices on the ballot. So she was elected to the California Supreme Court. Again, we're talking about Judge Janice Rogers. She was elected with 76% of the vote to the California Supreme Court. Pretty fucking high, 76% of the vote. Okay. So I'm gonna skip down here a little bit. All right. When Democrats derailed her nomination, Bush renominated her in 2005. Brown was eventually confirmed by a vote of 56 to 43. 43 Democrats voted against Judge Janice Rogers for the District Court in DC of Appeals. Would be the very first Black female to be nominated to this position, and 43 Democrats voted against it. Okay. So they did what typically happens in government, and they started making some negotiations. They started going back and forth. Some Republicans got what they wanted. Democrats got what they wanted. They used it as a bargaining chip, and eventually she was confirmed to the U.S. District Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Okay. The following month, when Justice Sandra Day O'Connor announced her retirement, Brown was on Bush's short list to replace her. She would have been the first Black woman ever nominated to serve as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. But Biden appeared on CBS's Face the Nation. Again, this is public record. He did this on TV to warn that if Bush nominated Brown, she would face a filibuster. He says, and quote, "I can assure you that would be a very, very, very difficult fight, and she probably would be filibustered." Biden said, asked by the moderator, John Roberts, wasn't she just confirmed? Biden replied that the Supreme Court is a totally different ballgame because a circuit court judge is bound by stare Decisis. I don't know. Staredicicis. I'm not sure what the fuck that means. They don't get to make new law. So what he's referring to is the fact that as a district judge to the U.S. Court of Appeals, is that you only get to rule on existing law. You get to make ruling based on the law that is put forward to you. You don't actually get to, as a Supreme Court justice would, your rulings now become law. You actually get to create law. And that's why being a justice is so important. Aside from the fact that it is a lifetime appointed office, you get to you stay in that forever. You get voted in one time. You never have to leave unless you want to. So that's why it's so important. Who gets into the U.S. Supreme Court is because they're for life. It's a lifetime appointment, and their rulings and their judgments and their positions and their papers make changes in law across the country. All the time you hear about people in court, it could be a criminal court, it could be a civil case, where people reference Supreme Court rulings. And it's kind of hard for a district attorney or a judge in a local county or somebody in a higher court to argue against the ruling of a Supreme Court. It's kind of hard. So it becomes a very important thing. And so right here, you're hearing that Biden made it very clear. So let's understand. Judge Janice Rogers was never, ever presented as a nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court. Never. She was never put forward. It was discussed in open dialogue that she was a front runner for the appointment position by President George W. Bush. He was in discussion about putting her forward as a nominee. He never actually put her forward because it was made very clear that if he did put her forward, the nomination would be killed in the Senate. They would never allow it to go forward. It would be filibustered and it would be put to death. It was talked very openly about that they would never allow it to happen. So, in fact, Ketanji Brown is the first Black female nominee for the United States Supreme Court. She will be the first Black female named to the United States Supreme Court. She is not the first minority, nor is she the first Black individual, nor is she the first female individual. You have several. You have several others that come before. She will just be the first Black female on the U.S. Supreme Court, and she will be confirmed. There's no possibility that she won't. So that should put a lot of end to that argument. People should stop arguing that it's going to happen. So what we need to do is how things go forward. The problem that I have in the situation is the things that she would not answer. It's very simple questions that were put forward to her that they were asking her viewpoint, the way she looks at certain things, and she would not answer them or could not answer them. Something that is up there today, something that is very discussed topic today, considering some of the things going on in our country, is the question that was presented to her: what is a woman? Now, as a fair person, I can say that is a very difficult fucking question to answer. If you look at it strictly from the biological standpoint, then you would say a woman is someone who has a vagina and ovaries. Okay. So are we talking about someone who currently has them or someone that was born with them? Because there are times where people have been born without ovaries, but they have a vagina. There are women who've had to go through surgery. Uh, I'm just drawing a blank on what it's called. Oh, a hysterectomy. There's women that have had hysterectomies for many reasons. They no longer have ovaries. They've lived their entire life with ovaries and a vagina, but now they no longer have ovaries because they had a hysterectomy. So are they not a woman? Is the is the individual born with a vagina, looks like a woman, sounds like a woman, talks like a woman, just didn't have ovaries at birth? Does that not make him a woman? Um, then if that isn't the only answer, okay, well, ovaries obviously produce estrogen and the hormones and things like that inside of a woman. Where do these changes take place? Um, there's a lot that's there. There was an article that was brought up about a Jamaican athlete, and she was not allowed to participate in the Tokyo Olympics because her testosterone levels were higher than legally allowed. Her naturally occurring testosterone levels were higher than what female athletes are allowed to participate with at the Olympics. Um, she was actually born with um, XY and XX chromosomes, so I guess XYX is what she has. Um, so naturally born female, has ovaries. I don't think she was born with a penis. I don't think that happened. But she wasn't allowed to participate in female sports. Um, yes, was she very masculine looking? Um, but did she definitely look like a woman? Absolutely. No questions whatsoever. And then you go to some of these other questions and you say, okay, well, what we look at, and that's where some of the difficulty lies with some of these things, is that we tend to get off into the weeds of what is a woman and what is a man simply based on appearance, simply based on looks, simply based on um, how someone appears outwardly to the world. Well, there's a lot there. There's a lot of different things. And again, as a fair person, um, I'm gonna factor a lot of these different things in when I make a statement, when I make a judgment about somebody. And the reason that all of this was brought up in the Supreme Court, the reason that this was brought up in in front of Ketanji Brown during her confirmation hearings, is obviously because of Leah Thomas and what's going on in female sports today, where you have an individual who was born as a man, born as a male, went through puberty as a male, started went through high school swimming, started college as a male, participated in college sports as a male. Um, I don't, have it confirmation or information on when she started questioning her identity and started considering things, but the that's kind of, I guess that's a little more subjective because that has only to do with her emotion. There are only the facts as far as when uh, she participated as a male and when she participated as a female. The thing with the NCAA is that they require 2 years. They require 2 years of testosterone suppression in order to be able to compete as a female. So right now, if we're talking about 2022, she had to have started this at least at this point in 2020, identifying as a female and taking hormone suppression, testosterone suppression medication, things like that. Now, I'm going to refer to Leah Thomas as a she. I am going to refer to, this is my choice. I'm going to refer to her as a she. I'm going to refer to her as her. Um, I don't have an issue with that. This is me personally. I have zero issue referring to any individual how they want to be referred to as uh, ma'am, sir, male, female. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not going to get off in the fucking weeds and refer to people as they, them. we. No, there's a difference between plural and singular. To me, you're male or female, and I'll be respectful at least on that level. Um, you can choose to express yourself to the world how you see fit. You cannot force everyone in the world to respond to you in the way you see fit. They have, me, I have opinions, I have individuality, I have a choice of how I like to express myself and how I will observe certain things. You cannot force me to call you a man or a woman. You cannot force me to call you, it, they, them, we, none of that. I will be respectful and I will refer to you as she, he, ma'am, sir. I will do that. I'm not going to go down the fucking road of all this other nonsense, the 17,000 different genders and all. No, fuck that. There's two genders, male and female. Um, and that's where a lot of this gets convoluted. A lot of this gets convoluted because we are living in a society today where people are not only arguing about what physically makes up a female or a male, but they're also talking about the philosophical differences in what makes up a female or a male, or if female and male are the only genders. See, now we're not just talking about what physical attributes make a male or female. We're now talking about what a lot of these people are trying to get into is beyond that, is the gender identity that encompasses more than the reproductive organs of an individual. Again, when you look at male, female, okay, a what we have traditionally viewed as what makes a female, someone that's born with a vagina, or a male that is born with a penis. Okay. You can castrate a male and he's still a man. You don't look you there's not an argument. There's not an argument. There's never been an argument. I mean, they call him well, a eunuch, I believe is I'm not sure if that someone has nothing. But a castration is someone has their testicles removed. They do that to bulls when they put them out to pasture, things like that. I don't think there's ever been an argument as far as is an individual still a man after they've been castrated. So I'm not sure why there would be an argument as far as is a woman not a woman because she doesn't have ovaries. I don't think that that should be an argument at all. So that leads into, okay, when you transition from one sex to the other, you can have a penis made and you can have a vagina made. You can have an innie turned to an outie and an outie sliced in half and turned into an innie. Um, it's essentially what's done. Um, in both cases, male transitioning to female isn't going to have ovaries, and a female transitioning to a male isn't going to have testicles. So we discuss and we talk about these reproductive organs, but let's be fair. You don't have to have a vagina to have a baby. You have to have a womb. You have to have ovaries. You don't have to have a vagina because you can have a baby cut out. You can have a cesarean. A birth canal is not required. You can have a cesarean and have a child. You don't have to have a penis to be able to produce sperm. You don't have to have sex to make a child anymore. They can literally take the eggs out of out of the female ovaries, and they can take sperm out of the men's testicles and then put that together inside of another human being altogether. And then that baby genetically is made up of two other people, but being carried by a third as a surrogate. It happens all the time. It's completely possible. So that is what makes the question as far as what scientifically makes a woman a woman? It's a very difficult question to ask or answer when you have to consider all of those things. There are women out there. Okay, does the definition of a woman mean that you have the ability to reproduce life? Well, what about the women out there that are infertile, that that are barren, they can't have children? Does that mean they're not women? There's beautiful women. I know several women out there that are beautiful women that have had an extremely hard time conceiving. That doesn't mean they're not women. I know women out there that can't conceive at all for one reason or another. Doesn't mean they're not women. I've got a friend of mine, one of the greatest people I know. He's fucking goofy as hell. Um, he has So here's a story about him. I'm not going to name his name because it might be embarrassing to him. He might not want it out there to the public, out to everybody. But this individual, you meet him. He's got a deep voice, big man, very tall. There would be no question whether or not he was a man. He's a man. He was born a man. This is not a question about that. He was looking to have children. He was married, was looking to have children, and they were of the impression that because his wife at the time had I guess what's called endometriosis. Maybe I'm fucking that word up. Endometriosis. She'd had that a couple times, and so they were concerned that she might not be able to actually have children. So they both go in and they start get tested and everything. They come back and they find out that it's actually him. Hi, buddy. I got Waylon down here. Come to find out, it's actually him. It has nothing to do with her. It's actually him. He has normally you go in there and they test your sperm. They get your sperm count, find out how high it is. His was at 0, absolute 0. It wasn't like there was, one per, whatever. There was 0. He had 0 swimmers. This guy, I see him in the gym all the time. He has 0 sperm. Because he has 0 sperm and he cannot produce a child. He cannot contribute to producing a child. Does it mean he's not a man? It's one of the manliest dudes I know. I would never question. And again, this is not an individual who transitioned or something like that. He was born a man, lived a man, and for whatever reason, he can't produce sperm. So does that mean he's not a man? If the ability to reproduce is what determines you to be a male or female, does that make my friend not a man? Does it make the women I know that aren't able to conceive children for whatever reason? Does it make them not? Hey, buddy. No. Hi, buddy. Hold on. Let's see if we'll get him in here. Come here. Come here. Oh, he's so fucking heavy. Oh, here, my piggy. All right. There's a piggy. Say hi to everybody, piggy. This is Waylon Jennings. Say hi. Okay, buddy. Okay. All right. My boy. Of course, wearing a white shirt. Nope. Get down. Anyway. So yeah, it's a difficult discussion that I don't think is simply based on the type of sex organ you have. But that's Waylon did that to me there. Nobody. No. I'm going to make a choice simply because I don't want to be cruel. I choose not to be cruel intentionally and go out of my way to hurt someone's feelings. I do believe there's more consideration that should be had, a larger discussion that should be had. I don't begrudge anybody else for making whatever decision they want. If they want to refer to Leah Thomas as a male, that's up to them. That's their choice. I don't judge them for it whatsoever. If they want to refer to her as a female, again, don't judge them for it. I'm making my choice. Again, this goes along those lines where if I'm not agreeing with her participating in female sports, I'm not agreeing with her participating against biological women, and dominating and taking away championships from the other women. Um, but this goes along the lines of saying if someone wants you to call them or refer to them in a certain way, they can request that, but you don't have to comply. You don't have to agree with it. You can't force someone to say, I am this, I am that. Someone doesn't have to sit there and say, hey, yeah, I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you an orange peel or an eggplant. We don't have to do that. Conceptually, I agree with her not competing in the sports, but I will make a decision on my part to at least refer to her as a female. Um, but it very clear. She has testicles, has a penis, but identifies as a female. So anyway, um, that's it, guys, man. I just want to say thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. Thank you guys for everything. I know I don't push this very hard, but hey, if you guys watching this, give me a like, give me subscribe. The algorithm is really weird, uh, super strange for some reason. Like I did an interview a couple weeks ago with Henry Walker, posted it live, went live on Thursday. In the first 48 hours, um, Thursday, Friday, it had received something like 50 views. I went and looked at it this morning and it's got over 700 views, and that just went up just yesterday. The same thing happens with a lot of these shows. I'll sit here and look at it and there's nobody watching the show. And the next thing you know, like one I did a couple weeks ago, has several hundred views. I don't know how fucking YouTube works and how it gets recommended, but I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you to anybody who sits out there and watches, just listen to me rant and spill my shit out there. Um, I've got some really great shows coming up, some really fun stuff happening. I'm actually going to be going and doing a couple on location interviews with a couple different business owners. I'm actually going to go to their places of business, and we're going to, instead of them coming to my studio, we're going to try to sit out there and highlight their business and be out there for them. I'm actually going to go do one today at a place called the Wildcatter Saloon out in Katy, Texas. So if you guys happen to be out in Katy, Justin and myself be sitting down at 2 p.m. today to do our talk. And of course, as all shows do, can pretty much just go in any direction. Justin's a really cool guy. I've known him for a couple years. It's a huge outdoor. It's a huge bar. It's a huge facility. It used to be a big biker bar. He and his wife bought it and kind of revamped it, turned into a huge outdoor music venue, a couple different live stages, as well as the bar and the sitting and the food. They bring in food trucks and everything. It's a very cool environment. I actually attended the very last concert they had there prior to the being shut down from the pandemic, and then I also attended the very first show after they opened up. They have a lot of great live acts there, such as Puddle of Mud has come through, Stained has come through, Tommy Vexed has come through. Danny Warsnop, who is the lead singer of Asking Alexandria, he came through. That was one of the shows I saw out there before the pandemic shut everything down, and it's just a really cool environment. So we're going to be out there. I'm going to be out there today. I'm going to record the show out there, and that'll go live probably in a week or two, maybe 2 weeks. Changing up the production schedule on a lot of the shows, so we can. A lot of them aren't getting out there because look, I can do I'm going to do this live once on every Sunday, but I can do also interviews. I can do so many interviews. I can get so many people on Zoom and everything else. 3 to 4 a week if I wanted to. I could do one every single day. But what ends up happening is they all start cannibalizing each other. So I'm only going to start at this point. I'm going to start putting out a show on every Tuesday, then every Friday. I'm going to do two interview shows a week, release them here on YouTube. So a show on Tuesday, a show on Friday, and then I'll do my Sunday lives. That way everybody can kind of digest it a little bit easier. But I'm going to continue to ramp them up. I'm going to do lots and lots of production. We're going to do lots of shows, doing recordings, working on some really great things, getting the show put on Spotify. I've got the Spotify channel set up. I've got the Apple Music channel set up. Working on Google Podcasts, working on Podbean. Actually, the show is on Podbean itself. I'm just getting the channel set up so that way everything is kind of uniform and it gets kind of put out at the same exact time. Podbean is going to be my hosting site. And then that's going to be where it's going to be distributed to Spotify and Apple and Google and Amazon and Pandora. So working on some really cool things. And what I may start doing is also doing some shows that are more lives, like I used to do in the past, more daily lives, and actually sitting here doing some commentary on some other things. I actually have started. That's the other thing as well, is I have started um, a managed chaos clips channel. So I will start taking some shorter clips from some of the interview shows and putting them onto the clips channel. So there'll be anywhere from 5 to 20-minute clips going on there. So you guys will be able to watch that. I'm also actually in the process of starting a reaction channel where I may sit here and watch a video on my end, put it up there on the production and show, kind of live reaction to it. So some different things happen and some really cool production things occurring. So, stay tuned for it. As always, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you all, everybody, for all the support, the love you guys provide. I really appreciate it. Everybody has been fantastic. All the just genuine support. Really have not received any real criticism. And I don't take anything, people can say bad shit all day long. People do give me some some opinions, things like that, things they think I should do. And I appreciate that. I'm more than happy to listen to it. That is actually what's influenced some of the changes that I've made, that I'm going to be making, is some of the constructive criticism that I've received. So I appreciate it. I thank everybody for everything they do. And that's it, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. If you guys like what I'm doing here, give me a like, give me a subscribe, click the notification button. So that way, when I do post content, when I go live, you guys will get notified immediately on your phone, on your desktop. Subscribe to the Manage Chaos channel. Subscribe to the Manage Chaos Clips channel. And again, you guys get notified when all this stuff starts coming up. All right. And I will talk to you guys soon. New show. I will be posting my interview with Derek Downing from the Baytown Houston Speedway. That'll go live on Tuesday. And that's it, guys. Look forward to talk to everybody else very soon. Bye.